destruction, right? See, if you see in the life of kings, right, some of the kings are good, most of them are not good. Some of them really followed God, but many of them did not. But even in those good kings who followed God, if you will read carefully, a word will say that he followed God, he did all these things, but he did not stop offering incense in high places. Many kings, if you see, right, that word will be there. Offering incense in high places continued. Solomon, the first thing that you see is he built a temple for the Lord, but he also was offering incense in high places. What is offering incense in high place generally referred to? Idol worship. Offering incense to God generally represents the prayer of believers, which are taken like an incense and put in the altar, which produces a fragrance to God, right? There was one king who was a very good king. Uzziah was a very good king. But then there was a time in his life where he felt he should be able to do other things the priest does. And then he extended his hand to do incense offering to God. That is when he got into that leprosy, right? So if you see good kings who really love God, who knows that God is real God and everything else is not true God, only there is one God, who truly follow God, but then there will be certain things in their life where they will go to idols also slowly. That's because there will be some things deep inside their heart which is sinful, and that sinful nature will get reflected as going into idols and doing so few small things. That few small things is sufficient to take us totally into wrong path. Right? So that was in Solomon's life, and we see when it ended in complete disaster, but slowly started deviating, then finally into complete disaster. But today let's talk about David. David started well, there were few mistakes in the middle, but finished very well. Right? What was in David's life that is so different than Solomon's life that he was able to finish it completely well? Right? That's what we are going to discuss today. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 16 and read from verse 10 to 13. 1 Samuel chapter 16. Sorry. ಯಾರಾವತ್ತು read பண்ணு 1 Samuel chapter 16 10 to 13. Meantime I'll put them.
Thus Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, and Samuel said to Jesse, "The Lord has not chosen these." And Samuel said to Jesse, "Are all the young men here?" Then he said, "There remains yet the youngest, and there he is, keeping the sheep." And Samuel said to Jesse, "Send and bring him, for we will not sit down till he comes here." So he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, with bright eyes and good looking. And the Lord said, "Arise, anoint him, for this is the one." Then Samuel took the horn of the oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel arose and went to Ramah.
Okay. So when Samuel comes to Jesse's house and says, "Bring all your children, I am going to anoint one of them as king," Jesse brings 7 of his children. And he makes one by one, from the first one, second one, third one, all the 7 walks through in front of them, and none of them is chosen. Jesse did not even remember that he has got one more son, until Samuel asks him, "Are these all your sons? Is there anyone left?" Then Jesse thinks, "Oh yeah, there is one more who is in the taking care of the sheep, and he is far away, he is not here. Bring him." Samuel says, "I will not sit until he comes." So then Jesse sends someone, then David comes. Then God says, "This is the one whom I chose." God says, "I have chosen David because his heart loves me. I have seen his heart, and his heart loves me." Right? What was that about David's heart that is so different than any of his brothers' heart? Or what the entire Israel, everyone in every Israel man was in front of God to consider. God chose only David. God rejected all his 7 brothers. God rejected all the other men. And God chose David. What was that so different in David's heart? He was a worshipper. Absolutely, he was a worshipper. But I think maybe the other 7 brothers also worshipped, right? All these people are God's people. Good number of them would have worshipped. I don't know. Let's say 50% or 60% of the Hebrew men worshipped God. I don't know what percentage. There are many people who would have worshipped God. David, of course, worshipped God, right? But there was something very different about David's heart.
That he didn't want power.
Yeppa?
That he didn't want power.
We can't say that. We can't say that David did not want power. We can't say that. Bible doesn't say that. Alvin brother spoke to me. Sorry, sister. Humility, worship, all those things. But there is something still very different. Alvin brother told me a few weeks about. We were chatting about something. Then he said, "Brother, did you hear Augustine Jabakumar talking about David?" And I didn't hear that message. Then he said about Augustine Jabakumar told about David's background. Why was David not there among those 7 brothers? Why is many of Jesse's son are in a very high role? They were in the war and they were in the kingdom's many big roles, right? So they are like powerful people. Jesse was one of the important man in Bethlehem, right? So his children were also in a good status. And generally, these sort of people who have got lot of money, who have got lot of wealth, there will be servants who will be taking care of sheep. You don't send your son to take care of sheep, right? Especially when all other sons are doing so well. And Jesse did not even remember David, right? So looks like Augustine Jabakumar uncle spoke about David's background a little. Bible doesn't talk about it. So I was doing little bit of research. Some of the Jewish books gives this view. Again, because it is outside Bible, let's not completely take it to heart. But we also can go to history and refer few things, right? And these are Jewish chronicles and Jewish books. If you go to those Jewish sources, it talks about David's background. Looks like something happened between David and David's father Jesse, and his mother's name is Nivetse. Some name I couldn't pronounce correctly. Something happened between them. They were separate. They're not officially separated. It sort of connects to Jesse's grandparents. Jesse's grandmother was a Moabite. Ruth was Jesse's grandmother. Something got into Jesse's mind. He started thinking about his lineage. He was one of the very big men in that city. And he started thinking about, am I in a right place to marry a Hebrew woman? If I come from Moabite, something happened in Jesse. We don't know the full story. But what has happened is, though they were together, they were not living like a husband and wife. Jesse's mother and Jesse's father. At one point of time, Jesse says, okay, now I'm going to take one of these servant maids of my wife, and I'm going to, she is a slave girl. Now I'm going to give her freedom, and I'm going to marry her. Now, if I am a Moabite and if I give that freedom, she is still from a different, she is not a Hebrew girl. She comes from a different background, so if I marry her, that is still okay. But if I am a proper Jew and if I give her a freedom, then she is officially, according to Moses' law, she officially comes under Hebrew, then I can marry her. So he comes up with some crazy idea. We don't want to talk about all that in detail, but something happened. So he is about to have a relationship with her. Then she comes and tells to Jesse's actual wife that she doesn't want it, because she knows how Jesse's actual wife loves Jesse really, and she doesn't want to go into that place, right? So she talks to her, and one leads to other, and the ladies agree that let's interchange our places, like how Leah took Rachel's place. They both come up with some crazy idea. So in the end of the day, it's just Jesse's actual wife, who gets into relationship with Jesse back, and Jesse did not realize it, and a son was formed. Now this lady doesn't say the truth, doesn't say the reasons. So they always thought this was an illegitimate child. So all the brothers always they ill-treated David from the beginning. Jesse ill-treated it. All the 7 brothers ill-treated it. See, if you, I was thinking about, is it really true, God? Is it this the story is really true? Think about Songs of Solomon, which Solomon wrote. There are some clues there. The lady will say, I'm despised by my own brothers. Brothers of my mother, sons of my mother who despised me. Right? There are some clues there which looks like it's talking about David's life. And even it talks about a lady from Sulam city. Actually, in the David's life, in the last day, finally when he is very old, he marries a lady, and that lady is from the city of Sulam. So if you put these things together, right, there could be certain amount of truth could be there in the story. We don't know how far it is true. We don't know how completely true. We don't know all those things. But one thing we know is David was completely despised. His brothers, 7 brothers, did not treat him as one of their equal brothers. His father himself did not treat him as one of his equal sons. So he was always an outcast. So that's why it looks like he has been given a job of a servant to take care of the sheep, and that is why he was not there in the place when Samuel came. Thank you. When Samuel came, he was not even there. He was not even considered. He was not even thought of. Right? David was always rejected. David was always thrown down. But David had a heart, somehow in all his lowliness, he somehow made himself happy in God. He was, for a teenage boy, for a boy who is 15 years, 16 years old, when your father doesn't treat you as your son, your brothers and you are not treated equally, and the entire people in your city treat you as a very, very lowly, sort of disgusted person, it's the most painful, horrible thing. Most of the people in that situation would have gone very, 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 very into depression, all sort of that sort of thing. There is a very similar story in Bible, actually, in Judges, if you see. There will be so many brothers, and his father will marry a servant, and one of the boys will come from the servant, and all these brothers will mistreat him, and how horrible that one person's life was already recorded in Bible, in Judges, to another story. So David's life was one such. But the difference in David's life is, though he was so ill-treated, though his status was so low, though everything was low, somehow he had a heart where it said, end of the day, doesn't matter. My God loves me. Even the entire world hates me, doesn't matter to me. As long as my God loves me, I'm okay. I'm happy. I will sing unto him. I will keep praising him. Yeah, people will not like me. I will go to desert, I'll go to forest, I'll go to all the places. I'll just be with his sheep, and I'll keep singing to the Lord. I'll keep loving him. He keeps loving me. I'm okay. He had that heart, which is a very special heart. See, we people, what we will do is, when problem strikes us, right? When someone says something that is burdensome to us and painful to us, right? We will go low and we will start sinking. Right? Our heart will not rejoice in God. We will completely forget about God. All we will remember is what others said. Only that will be in front of us. That is who we are. But David had a heart, irrespective of what the entire his world told about him, he is able to swipe it away, and he can look into God and say, Lord, you love me, and that's enough for me. He had that heart. That's a very, very special heart. God saw that heart. So what David is saying to God is, God, Doesn't matter what my mother says about me. What doesn't matter what my father tells about me. Doesn't matter what my brothers think about me. Doesn't matter everyone in my life what they think about me. All that matters to me is what do you think of me? As long as you are happy with me, as long as you love me, as long as you take care of me, even I will walk through the valleys of shadows of death, I will still praise you. I'll still worship you. I'll still love you. That was David's heart. And that's a very, very, very special heart. And that is why David was chosen. Right? We should have that heart. We should get that heart. See, in David's case, it was his own brothers who put him down. In our case also, some of the people whom we love dearly and who loved us dearly might turn against us. Our own family might turn against us. Our dear brother in Christ, our sister in Christ might turn against us. Even God Himself may allow it. You know why? God will test our heart and see. Even if people in your life who are very close to you, even if they turn against you, will you still be happy in me? Will you still rejoice in me? Will you still keep praising me? That heart is very important. Let's get that heart. Let's pray. Let's worship Him. Let's ask Him to give that heart. Let's come to that place. We all should come to that place, because when God keeps bringing us to higher elevations in spirit, right? As we grow in spiritual life, right? One of the tests we will, if we really keep growing in spiritual life, one of the tests we will all face is there will be a time where people who are so dear, so close to us will turn against us. And at that time, we should not sink in. We should not go down. We should not start crying and say, God, why? Oh, no, nothing matters. Lord, did I make a mistake? Did I do something that you don't like? And if your conscience says that, no, you haven't done anything, that's all. Keep praising Lord, keep worshipping Lord, keep thanking Him for that incident, and say that, God, as long as you are with me, I'm okay. And keep going. That is very, very important for us. Right? Okay, that is one of the reasons. Let's read 1 Samuel chapter 17, 26th verse, please. 1 Samuel 17, 26th verse.
Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?
Note the word armies of living God. See, there is one army there. There is an army of Saul, the king Saul, and his army is there. Why is David saying armies of living God? What is armies of living God? And when everyone see the Philistine, when everyone see Goliath, what they see is, they see they are this much and Goliath is this much. That is all everyone sees. When David sees Goliath, what he sees is Goliath is this much, God's army is this much. How is his eyes able to see in that way? Last week or week before, we spoke about eyes that has to be opened. Remember that? Our eyes has to be opened. We should be able to see spiritual things. Right? There was a prophet, Elisha. Children I don't know whether you remember this story. In Elisha's life, there was a time when the king of Syria sends a huge army to just capture one man, just one prophet. The king of Syria is not sending an army to capture the entire kingdom. The king of Syria is sending an army to capture one man, one prophet. And his Gehazi, who is servant of Elisha, he is trembling in fear. Oh God, today is the day we are going to die. Right? But Elisha is at peace. And Elisha says to God, God, open Gehazi's eye, let him see what I see. So God opens Gehazi's eye, then he sees the Syria army is here, but in all the mountains around us, God's army, the host of armies of God, they are all standing, the angels of God, the armies of God, they are all surrounding the mountains and they are all standing with a spear and they are fully, completely armed. Then Gehazi's fear left him. This is the gift that David had. Because he loved God so much, because his love for God was so strong, out of all the rejections, he somehow made his love stand out of rejection and still climb God's love because he increased in God's love. Every time when he sees something that comes against, he doesn't see that enemy and him. Rather, he sees the enemy and God. This is a gift. We should get this gift. Every time when we see any of our problems, right? Our children is not obeying. Someone whom you love is not growing in the Lord. Some problem, whatever problem you face, health issues, children issues, job issues, any issues, when you see a problem that comes in front of your eyes, what do you see? Do you see that problem and you, or do you see that problem and God? We should definitely get there. We should ask God, God, give us a heart, open our eyes of the Spirit. Let the eyes of our heart be open. Any problem that comes, let us see the problem with you in the perspective of that problem. That was David's heart. Right? Okay, let's read 28 and 29 to us, Ma.
Now Eliab, his older brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was aroused against David. And he said, "Why did you come down here, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the insolence of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle." And David said, "What have I done now? Is there not a cause?"
Okay. See the words that comes against. Even though your heart is strong, even though you are seeing it in spirit perspective, but the people in the world will criticize you, and the criticism will come from someone who is very close to you. In David's case, it was his own brother speaking it. It's actually devil's words. The devil will put those words in people's mind and heart, and they will speak those words. And I don't know whether this guy Eliab realized what he's doing to David. David is strengthening himself in God. He's becoming strong in God. Now this guy in his word is putting David down so low so that David will not get up. That's exactly what he's doing. But the truth is, David was not bothered at all. David already has faced this rejection so many times. He has already outgrown this rejection and he is filled with God's love. This rejection is not matters to him anymore. In ideal world, in our situations, if when we are trying to come and when we are trying to strengthen ourselves in God, when you are slowly becoming strong, when someone whom you love says 10 words, everything will go down and you fall down. You go into total mode of crying. But David did not. So again, in rejection there is a pain, but in rejection there is an opportunity to grow in God's love. See it in that way. Rejection is painful. Rejection is a horrible thing. It's a very painful stuff. True. But rejection also gives an opportunity to grow in God's love. Okay, let's read 33 to 37 in that same chapter.
And Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it, and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard, and struck it and killed it."
Now think about this. A 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, like Sahana's age, Serin's age, almost their age, right? 15, 16-year-old, a lamb is struck in a lion's mouth. Lion's mouth will be this big, and a human head will be this big. Lamb will be this big. He goes and puts his hand, it's absolute truth. He goes and puts his hand into lion's mouth and takes it out. And when the lion turns and tries to attack him, he captures the bird of the lion. Look at the lion has got that big bird around it, right? Captures that lion's band and strike him and kill that lion. Now we know in Bible it is absolutely truth from the life of Who's another character whom we know in Bible? This is Samson. Samson's life, the Spirit of the Lord came, he got into so much power, he was able to strike the lion with his hand and kill it with his own bare hands. David had that same gift. What does that mean? As a 15-year-old, as a 16-year-old, in the forest, deserted area where there is no human, he is already so dependent on God. He is filled with God's Spirit. He is able to protect himself from any danger that comes. Think about Jesse's heart. Sending a 15-year-old, 16-year-old without no protection. Only one thing he will have is that the staff of that, the shepherds will have a staff, right? That's all his protection. He doesn't have an AK-47 in his hand. With the staff he goes. A 15-year-old, 16-year-old. Lions will come. Bears will come. A father knows that. But he is putting his own son in that place. See the amount of rejection. But David did not sink low. Every pain, every rejection, he worked his heart out. In everything he saw God's love. In everything he strengthened himself. That is the truth, and that is the strength of David's beautiful heart. In all rejection, in all pain, in everything, you will look up to God. God, you love me. God, your love is sufficient for me. God, who am I that you love me so much, my Lord? The entire world hates me, but then you love me. Why, Lord? People who are so near and dear to me can't love me. But you are the awesome God. You are the most powerful one. And you love me? He enjoyed God's love. He grew himself in God's love. He strengthened himself in God's love. And his heart was filled with God's love. And that is the heart that God loved. Right? Okay, let's go to second. This is the first one we want to talk about. Let's go to second topic. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 30. Read from verse 3 onwards. 1 Samuel chapter 30.
So David and his men came to this city, and there it was, burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept, until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives, Ahinoam and the Jezreelites, and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God.
This is the strength I'm talking about. See, when Saul was chasing David goes into deserted, remote place to hide himself. Then what God does is, God rises up some people, God gives them skill, God gives them power, and God's changed their heart to love David, and God sent all these people to David. Now David, who is supposed to be one person running away from the king so that he will be killed, now suddenly he sees himself with an army of people. There are hundreds of people who have left the kingdom, who have left the comfort of the city, who have left their lives, who have left their fields, who have left their money, who have left their families, and then they went and joined David. Because God changed their heart to love David. And God gave them skills. God made these men powerful. Now, David is not a single person anymore. David has got two wives. David himself has got family. And then all these people with their families, there is one big group of people who are living in that remote area. Suddenly, there is a time when everything these men had has been taken away from them. Their children, their wives, their money, their properties, everything they had is completely taken from them. And these people are so depressed, they are continuously crying. David is crying, everyone are crying. In their deep distress and deep pain, now they want to kill the leader who led them to this place. All these people who loved David more. See, his brothers rejected him. And these people who are not his relatives became his brothers. and how much David would have loved these people, and how much these people would have loved David. And now all these people who loved David, they themselves want to stone and kill David. First question, why did God allow this situation? Can't God have stopped this situation? Why did God allow David to face this? Is it not God architecting David's life? Is it not God who sent all these people to David? I will even go to an extreme and say, is it not God who sent those enemies? Is it not God who made those enemies take away all their families? It is God. And why did God do that? To test David. To see David. See, you were in a very rejected place and you loved me. Now I have given you everything. The love you never had, now you have so much of it. If I take away that love, will you still love me? Similar to Abraham's test. The only thing you want is a son. I gave you. And if I take away that son, will you still love me? Same test. Same test. Again, if we are chosen by God to grow in spirit, and if we are called by the Lord to do works for God, and if we are going to abound in good works for God, we will all face the same situation. Don't be angry with the people. David was never angry with those people. David was never upset with those people. David never said, how dare you say this? How much I have done for you? How much I have cared for you? How much I have provided for you? Now you all want to kill me? He was never angry with them. He was never upset with them. His cry was only towards God. His love was only towards God. He is like Job. He will say, God, you gave and you take. I will still praise you. If you give, I will praise you. If you take, I will praise you. Same heart. Right? Now, second question. Do we have strength in the midst of our deep, deep trouble? Do we have strength to strengthen ourselves in God? In the midst of deep trouble that will come upon us, do we have strength to strengthen ourselves in God? If a deep trouble strikes us, will we go to God and say, God, why did you do this to me? What did I do and why did you allow this to me? Will we say that? Or will we trust Him and say, God, you know what you are doing. And what you are doing is always right. It is painful for me, but what you do is always right. So I will praise you. I will worship you. I will love you with all my heart. You know what you are doing. I don't understand and I don't need to understand. Do we have ability inside us to strengthen ourselves in God when a deep distress comes upon us? Right? Let's pray and ask Him to give that strength. I'm sure if David has, we should also have. David lived in Old Testament and he had this. We are living in New Testament with Holy Spirit inside us. How much more we should have this strength in us. Right? Okay, let's go to 1 Samuel, okay, sorry, then 2 Samuel chapter 5 to 4, please. 2 Samuel chapter 5 verse 4.
David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 40 years.
Okay, now David became a king only when he was 30 years. Historians, Bible commentators say, by the time he was made to run away, it was around 17, 18 years old. He was still a teenager or maybe early 20s. So there was a good number of years God made David stay in English desert place. God made David stay in that deserted place for almost 10 years, 12 years, almost that place. Why did God allow David to stay in that place? See, when God called Saul, he became a king immediately. When David was called as a king, if God wanted, he could have made him a king immediately, right? Why did God bring this phase of deserted life for David running from Saul day and night for his life and for the people around him. He kept on moving. There was no place where he could stay. He didn't have food. He didn't have a shelter. And all these people with him were struggling. Why did God put... He did not do any mistake, right? It's not because of David's sin God made him to get into that place of desert, right? That's not the case. If David has not committed any sin, and if he did not make anything against God, why did God take him and put him in that place?
To make him rely upon God.
To make him?
Rely upon God.
Absolutely, Kanni. Absolutely. See, God will break us. There is so much of self-reliance inside us. When an issue comes or when something comes, our immediate reaction is to take the strength which is of us, knowledge of us, strength of us, wisdom of us. We will depend on our own self to do things. God doesn't want that. Even if you can do it, depend on me. If you can't do it, come to me naturally. If you can do it, still come to me. That self-reliance has to be broken. See, that was the problem in Saul's life. God gave that kingdom immediately to him. When a problem, see, think about Saul. He was a very humble person. He was dependent on God when God touched him first. But soon when he became a king, his reliance became on him, on his people, on his army, on his strength, on his kingdom. He started taking everything from himself, not going to God and begging God, God, give me strength. God, show me the way. God, what should I do now? What do you want me to do now? Should I go? Should I not go? Rather than going to God and asking what to do and asking for grace, asking for strength, asking for mercy, asking for power, he started taking it from himself and from people around him. That was the problem of Saul. And God wanted to break that reliance in David. So, one thing I have seen again and again, if God has chosen us to do mighty work of his kingdom, be very sure he will take you to a place and he will start breaking you. That's not your mistake. Don't blame yourself. Oh, I should have done something wrong. Oh, I'm not good enough. Or no. God, because he has chosen you, because he loves you, he will also break you. It's a path of growing in God. It's beautiful. It is painful, but I'm telling you, that is also beautiful. When you come out of that breaking phase, right? The joy that comes, the love of the Lord that overflows into your heart, it's absolutely worth it. You will say that, okay, Lord, let me put in desert once again. Let's go through it. It will be so overwhelming, that love, when he takes you out of that desert, when the time comes. Happily go through it. Happily accept it. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Okay. So, two things God breaks in David's life. One is his self-reliance in the incident we saw, and the previous incident we saw before, where everyone wanted to stone David. There, he breaks the reliance on others, reliance on people whom you love you. God will break both. God will not only break your own self-reliance, but he will also break the reliance and dependence that you have on people. See, now, we as brothers, right, I'm absolutely sure we love each other, we give for each other, we do so many things for each other. But if a time comes in our lives where we cannot help each other, or for whatever reason we stand against each other, be at peace. Be at peace. Don't blame anyone. Don't say you are wrong, I'm wrong, why did you do that? Don't try to explain, don't try to make things work. No. If a time comes when people whom you love don't support you or come with you in the way you want, be absolutely at peace. Don't blame them. Don't fight with God. Don't cry on that. Be at peace. Tell to God, Lord, you are with me. If I have made a mistake, forgive me. If I have to ask forgiveness, make me ask forgiveness. If I have to lower myself, make me do it. Remove all my sins. But whatever others do, help me to love them. Help me to be with them. And if you want to take them away from me, so be it. As long as you are with me. You have to come to that place. We should absolutely love each other. With all our heart, we should love each other. But if in case God removes, even then we should be at absolute happiness and absolute peace also. We cannot or we should not depend on whom we love. Love everyone, but don't depend on anyone other than God. Okay, let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6, read verse 20 to 23.
Then David returned to bless his household, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, uncovering himself today in the eyes of the maids of his servants, as one of the base fellows shamelessly uncovers himself." So David said to him,
Let me quickly explain what this incident is. See, one of the very, very, very big important thing or ambition or almost most important thing for David is to bring this Ark of Covenant into right place and build a place for it and worship it there. Right? That was the most important thing for David. After a lot of issues, after a lot of trouble, finally he succeeds. He has brought Ark of Covenant into the right place and he celebrates it as like a huge festival. He gives so much of food, he gives so much of gift, he spends so much of money. He not only does that, he dances in front of it without proper dress. In those days, when there is a huge function or festival or procession, people who are slaves will be made to dance in front of it with all their strength, with all their might, and they won't be even wearing a proper clothes. It will be very, very, that's the culture, that's their culture, that is that way. What David does is, instead of giving that role to a slave to do it, rather than a slave taking that dancing role, David himself goes and takes that role. David removes his robe. David removes all his kingly garments and all the gold and all those things that are around him. He removes all those things. Probably he is in his underwear, I don't know. So in a very, very not in a good dress. And he dances his full might in front of that. He celebrates it. He enjoys, he praises God with all his strength. He worships God. He shouts with all his might. Michal, who is Saul's daughter, who is David's wife, comes to David and says, "You are a king. How much you have lowered yourself. Even a slave will not do that. You have made yourself so disgusting in front of all the eyes of these people." How can you do that? Is what Michal said correct? Of course, David is a king. A king has a standard, right? Does king not have a standard? How can a king dance like a slave? How can a king dress like a slave? Today, we don't have that culture. We haven't seen people who are slaves around us. And we don't see how they are treated or how they are looked upon. We don't have that exposure at all. But slaves are almost treated like animals, right? Like possessions. They're not treated like humans. Right? That is the culture they lived. And David went to that stage. Is Michal right or wrong? What do you think, children? Is Michal right in saying that? Now read David's answer again.
So David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord who chose me instead of your father and all his house to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel."
So what is the first thing he is saying to Michal? What is the first words he is using to Michal? It is before God. What Michal is seeing all these people and you. Can you see the difference? My dear brothers and sisters, I want us to see this. Michael I sees David and people. David sees David and God. In front of God. His answer is in front of God's eyes. He is not bothered about people at all. It is always God for him. Every time it's God for him. It is in front of my God. Continue.
Therefore I will play music before the Lord, and I will be even more undignified than this.
I will be even more undignified than this.
And will be humble in my own sight.
I will be humble in my own sight. See, the problem is in this world is if you come to one place, then you have to keep your honor in that place. That is what the world teaches. For example, in your office, in your workplace, let's say you are exalted to a place. And then you have been given a responsibility for 10 people or 20 people. Now, what the world expects you to do is that out of these 20-30 people, you are top than them, you are better than them, you are more than them, you are the one who has to say what have to be done, and these 10-20 people have to do what exactly you say. This is the world's standards. But what did our God say? If you serve someone, if you are going to work, if you are made as a leader to someone, you should be the last. If there are 10-20 people, you are the 20th person. If you have been given 30 people, you are the 30th. If you are given 100 people, you are the 100th. So what David is saying is, Michael, you don't know who I am. My father was disgusted with me. My brothers hated me. No one gave any respect to me. Whenever people saw me, they saw me as if I am the worst of slaves. My father could have sent his servants to take care of his sheep, but he made me go and take care of the sheep. He sent me to a place where there will be lions and bears and there is no safety for me there, but he sent me there. But my God looked at me and my God loved me. My brothers were so tall, they were so mighty, they were like your father. Your father was a well-built man, and my brothers were like that. Obviously, my brothers would have been the right choice. Even I will say that my brothers are the right choice. But God did not choose them. God chose me. How much more undignified I go to his feet and fall at his feet. I should feel that I'm the worst worm in this world in front of his feet. I'll be more undignified in his feet. I will fall at his feet. I will make myself nothing in front of him. I will break all my pride. I don't need this kingdom. He gave me it as a gift, and this kingdom is not big for me. Worshipping him, loving him, obeying him, being with him, that is important for me. I will make myself more undignified in front of him because he loved me when the entire world rejected me. Your father, Michael, God made him a king. And when he was made as a king, he was so humble, he ran and said in front of God, God, why are you choosing me? My Benjamin family and group is nothing. We are nothing people in front of you. But when he was established as a king, after many years, when he established himself as a powerful, mighty king and won few wars, he forgot God. It was all about him establishing himself as a king, acting as a king, making everyone fearful of him, making everyone worship him. His entire life was all about his kingdom and maintaining his kingdom and being high above everyone. I will not be like that. I will not be like that. I will be the least. I will be the worst. I was rejected and I will remain rejected. People might say you are important. People might say you are great. People may say you are, even my own heart will say that I am great and I am big. I will not accept it. I will remain always rejected. If my God takes me, lifts me, I will get up. If he puts me down, I will happily go down. Even the weakest person in the entire Israel, if he makes me as a slave to the worst person in Israel, I will become a slave to him. I will happily go, because it's my God who is doing it, and I will remain into him like that. That is humility. That is humility. See, we always see humility as the actions we do. Right? Brother used to make fun of me. Like if we take something or if we pick something, right? Then we see that is humility. No, that is not humility. That is all actions. That is all acting. Humility is what I think of myself in my heart in front of God. Do I think I am someone in front of God just because he has made me go to that place? Just because he has given me some big group and I have been made as a leader of that group, does it mean that I'm big? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you make me as a leader of a big group, it means that out of all the people in that group, I am the last person in that group. That is why I am the leader of that group, and I will remain the last person in that group. That is humility. What I think of myself, how I feel about myself. Right? Let's grow in this humility. Let us be very, let's never ever think we know something. We might know few things. See, if God made me as a leader or you, that means that you are something, that's true. But in your heart, believe that you are something or you know something because God made you something and God gave you something. It is not you. You never made yourself as a self-made leader. This world claims. Have you heard that word? Self-made leader. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. If we are something, it is what God gave us as a picture நம்ம தமிழ்ல சொல்லுவோம். It's what God gave. We are nothing. Let us, I don't know, today probably we are humble. In 2025, in next few years, we don't know what God is going to do to us. God might establish us. God might make us go to heights. But let's ask one thing. God, till the last day and the topmost place, I don't know in what time or what age you will make me to go there, I don't know. But when I become the topmost according to your will, let me be the lowest in that entire group. Please give me that heart. Never ever. If my heart changes, you strike me. You strike me. Let me get hit from your own hand, so that I'll become humble again. Okay. So let's go to David's life, right? There are so many things that are so colorful, so beautiful, so wonderful about David's life. Did David make mistake? Let's talk about few mistakes David made. What do you remember? We spoke about few days before in family. Bathsheba is a big incident. What's other big mistake David made? We'll go quickly. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 24. 2 Samuel chapter 24. Read the first 4 verses, please.
Again the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, Go and number Israel and Judah. So the king said to Joab, the commander of the army who was with him, Now go throughout all the tribes of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, and count the people, that I may know the number of people. And Joab said to the king, Now may the Lord your God add to the people 100 times more than there are, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king desire this thing? Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the armies of the captains of the army. Therefore Joab and the captains of the army went out from the presence of the king to count the people of Israel.
See, this says, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel. Anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel. Same story is explained in Chronicles also. There you will say, Satan tricked David's heart to do this action. See, basically what David is doing is, he is sending Joab, his main leader, and few more people to go through entire Israel and count the people of Israel and get them the count of the people who are living in Israel. Now, why is this a sin? Why is God angry? Counting people, taking census, taking count is always done throughout history, right? People do it every time from olden days, from centuries ago. People always take census, and it's always there. Even today, people do it. Why is taking census wrong? Or why is God angry with them in this? If you see the punishment, we don't have time. God very, very severely punishes them. There was thousands and thousands of people died because of this incident.
Because God gave him victory with a minimum number of people to win over the major armies, and he didn't think about that. Instead, he was checking how much strength he has got around himself.
Absolutely, sister. When they were very small, when they were very weak, they always trusted God to give them strength, give them people, give them battle weapons, everything. They completely trusted on God. Now, they have won few wars already. There are n number of wars they have won. Before, if you read before these chapters, right, there are so many wars they kept on winning. And all the giants, not only Goliath, there are so many other giants, they kept on killing them also. And they have become really powerful. When they become very powerful, now what King David is trying to do is, go and count the people so that I know how many people are there, and I will make, generally they say that when they take consensus, right, they put a tax amount also. So basically they will get a lot of money from the people, and they will make the army very strong and very big so that they can go and be ready and win war. So basically, rather than God telling them, now go and fight these people, go and take this battle, go and destroy them, rather than God leading them, David is trying to lead on his own. And if you see also, the other thing they do is, whenever they count, right, they won't count it as entire Israel. They will count it as two. They will count it as all Israel and Judah. It will be Judah alone separately. David comes from the tribe of Judah. So there is always a fear. See, David, though he is accepted as a king, there is a difference. The people of Judah and David, how they are connected, versus how David and connected with other remaining 10, 11 tribes, right? There is a difference. There is a partiality. There is a difference. That is a sin again. Right? So anyway, so David committed this sin, and David was horribly punished for that. Now, more than this, I think the most important thing, I think we'll talk about this last issue, and then we are going to close. See, David's family life was terribly, terribly messed up. We all know about Bathsheba incident, so we are not going to talk about. That was a huge, horrible mistake David did. After that, out of his sons, one son will rape one of the other daughters of David, Ammon. And then the other son, whose sister was raped, will kill this guy. Then this guy who killed the other guy, he will try to become a king by chasing David away. It's not only one son who will try to do that, then the second time there is another son, second son, one more son, who will also try to become a king and try to take away kingdom from David. See the children. How messed up. How completely messed up. David was an amazing king. I'm sure he was a fantastic, fantastic king. And every king and every person who is in a leadership position will long to be like David's heart and David, the way he ruled. But as a father, as a head of his own family, how did David's sons turn out to be so? How can one of his own son be a rapist? How can two of his sons fight against him and take over the kingdom from their own father? See, in I don't think I have not seen words like pastor, other things in New Testament. But what New Testament talks about is elders in church, right? There is a role that God creates, but the people who lead the church are called elders in church. And the qualification for elders, Bible says, he should be of one wife. He should have a good family. His children should be obedient children. If I'm not able to have obedient children, and if I'm connected more than Remy or with anyone else, I can't do God's work. I should never ever do God's work. Sarana's laughing. So, obedience and leading the family is an absolute must to start doing anything in God. So, what I'm going to say to us today is, see, we all have a heart where we want to please God, where we want to work for God. It's absolutely right. We should serve God. But what is the first thing that we should work? What is the number one thing we should work before working for God's kingdom? We have to sort out our families. Our family life should definitely have to be sorted out. When we started this ministry, Remy and we couldn't agree. I felt God is telling us to do this. Remy felt we are an absolutely broken family. We are the least of everyone. We don't even take our family properly. Who are we to do God's work? But I felt, no, God is telling us to do. And Remy said, no, we haven't started our household properly. How can we do? What do we know? Then in Roman Brothers Fellowship, brother gave certain words, then those words spoke to Remy. Remy's heart changed, then we started doing things. There are many things we are sorting out as a family now. Even this week, Saturday, quite 2-3 hours, we were sorting out many things. So what I'm trying to say is, sort out family. After that, from there, go and do God's work. Right? Husband and wife, unity, absolutely must. Absolute must. They should have same heart. One cannot say let's do this and others say that let's not do it. We can't work like that. It has to come together. Only when we come to... See, let me ask you this. God tells me to do something and Remy is not agreeing to it. And because of that, I'm not able to do it. Will God tell me that I'm wrong? Will God say that I've told you to do and you are not doing it? How dare you? Will God ask me that? Or God will sort out Remy's heart and make it work for me. Then he will expect me to work. What will God do? Second one, right? So if we are not able to see in the same way, wait. David, God made him wait for 10 plus years. Only after that God made him a king. If you have that desire and potential to do and God is asking you to do, when other person is not agreeing to it, wait. Cry at his feet. Fight at his feet, but don't go and do it. Right? Then things will come properly. Then our children will start obeying us. Right? Children not obeying, let's sort that out first. Let's sort our children first. Of course, see, we have to lead others into God's kingdom, absolutely. But also ensure that our children are strongly rooted in God. God is patient. God, if God is not like, oh, you are not doing, then what will I do now? It's not like that. God can make even a stone do whatever he wants. But I'm not saying that working for God is not important. Absolutely important. Working for God is very important. That should be our goal. But working for God comes from, if it is a house, the basement is family. From that basement, then we build the next floor, which is ministry. We can't build ministry without our house basement being sorted out. Right? That was David's problem. Now, because it was Old Testament, because Holy Spirit was not inside David, David did not get a commandment like what we have today. No one told David that Moses did not write a commandment to David in Old Testament and say, sort out your children, then become a king. That commandment was not there for David, but we have it. Right? See, when we want to do something and we know that God has given that direction, when God has blessed us to do, but God has not opened the door in the family, it means that God has put in that place of test. God has kept in that, a time will come. God will release that place from test. And it will go so powerfully and so strongly from that place. But until that place comes, in the place of test, the place of desert, happily accept it. That is the place where you will become strong. You will become mighty. Rather than you doing it all in your strength, wait in that resting place, wait in that desert place, let God open it, you will do 1,000 times more better. It will be so quick, it will be so strong. Right? Other thing, children, I absolutely believe with all my heart, if God has called us to do His work, He will take care of our children. He will sort out our children. There will be a time when it will look like they are going against us. There will be a time when they will speak against us and we will be so scared. Don't worry. If God has brought us thus far, God has taken us as family thus far, a time will come, He will fix our children. Right? So be at peace there as well. Okay. So I want to close with this final thought. Finally, when David was about to die, when his old age came, God said, I will make your name as the biggest, like the greatest people of the world. See, even today, people who don't know God, just go and ask them, do you know King David? They will have there was a one very good king, right? Very powerful king, right? They know that name. And God said, I will make your name well established as the greatest in this world. And He did that for David. Right? Jesus came in David's lineage. Jesus is the eternal king. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, let's have that heart. The heart David had, right? In rejection, absolutely love God. In humbleness, absolutely love God. In all the pain, don't talk about others. Why did he not do it? Why did he do it? Why did she say that? Why did he do? Don't worry about all those things. God will sort out all those problems. What can I do? How can I be humble? How can I serve my family? How can I serve others? It's all about we and God. The other things where you don't have control, God will sort it out. Right? Okay. With that thought, we'll close. So many afraid we'll close.
Yeah. பிதாவே, உம்மை நன்றியோடு உம்மை துதிக்கிறோம்.